Good afternoon and welcome to Play Print 21, the ANZ Industries weekly video news bulletin brought to you by print21.com.au. Thanks to our sponsor, Fujifilm Business Innovation, the promise of change. This week's news is led by big changes at the country's biggest printer, with Ovato CEO Kevin Slavin stepping down and the current Chief Operating Officer, James Hannon, now in the hot seat as CEO and Managing Director. Slavin's contract had been due to expire in September. He's been CEO since December 2017, taken over when former incumbent Peter George stepped back suddenly due to family reasons. He's been CEO during a period marked by severe turbulence and which has seen the company become half the size it was. James Hannon has been in print for 18 years and since 2014 in senior roles, with first IPMG of course, then PMP or Ovato as it became. He's played a key role in the recent restructure, which saw suppliers take a 50% haircut on invoices, Melbourne business closed and various other funding situations continue. He's also leading the drive to divest non-core assets. Of those assets, the distribution business, now known as Retail Distribution Australia and New Zealand, formerly Gordon & Gotch of course, has been bought by Ovato shareholder R Media for $15 million, and they're also taking on the $27 million worth of debt. Ovato is selling its marketing services business to Hannon-owned entity Ballygriffin for $9 million. Ovato, as it became 2 years ago, has faced the same intense market dynamics as its multi-site heatset peers overseas, but has actually fared better. The two biggest US heatset printers had to merge to stay alive, and the UK's biggest heatset operation, Polestar, collapsed in a rather ungainly heap. Ovato's results, though, make stark reading. Ovato has transitioned from $1 billion in sales revenue in 2017 to likely just half of that this year. 2017 also saw the era of big losses begin. As a director and CEO, Slavin has had to face and execute some difficult decisions during his time at the top, most notably, of course, the closure of its Melbourne manufacturing site, with the loss of some 300 jobs, and he faced plenty of criticism, along with the rest of them, for the use of the government's FEGs to pay out the $17 million to sacked workers. Remaining affable throughout his tenure, though, when he spent most of that time at the top under intense pressure as the Ovato business struggled on many fronts, Slavin presented a logical case for all the decisions he made and the board made. He believed that what was good for Ovato was good for the industry. Full analysis is on print21.com.au. Offset continues in the news this week. Those who say the era of printing iron is coming to an end will need to think again, as Heidelberg signals and signs its biggest deal in years, with a commercial printer taking 11 B1 Speedmaster 106 XL presses. Dutch operation Wilco is replacing its entire fleet with a new generation of Heidelberg push-to-stop presses, including 4 8-colour long perfectors, with 61 units in total across the 11 presses, some of which are LED versions. A long way from this old Albion press, 160 years old, that is behind me, but nonetheless the era of iron continues. Major industry supplier Fujifilm had to close down its entire online network this week, leaving it unable to fulfill email orders from printers as it dealt with a suspected ransomware attack. Print businesses using Fujifilm's digital workflow solutions were safe from infection, were unaffected though, as those workflows are not cloud-based. The takedown is a graphic reminder to all print businesses, large and small, to make sure their cybersecurity is up to scratch. Crooks don't just go after the big end of town, unfortunately. They are the big stories from this week. Don't forget our latest podcast, Print 21 podcast, The Print Files, leading in print, with Wayne Finkeldy, CEO of AAB Holdings, which of course includes Pegasus Print Group, SOS Printer Media, discusses print leadership, taking opportunity and tough decisions in that Print Files podcast with me, with some candid conversation there. That's it for this week's issue of Play Print 21. Thanks to our sponsor, Fujifilm Business Innovation, the promise of change. That's it for me, Wayne Robinson. Go to print21.com.au for all these stories and more, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.